Namaste and welcome to this Tea Talk. This is your host, Silu, and today I have a very special guest. But to invite today's guest, I had to wait to make over 100 videos, 180 to be exact. Still, I'm nervous. Still, I have no words how to invite her, how to introduce her. She's the person who has impacted so much in my life. I am who I am. It's because of her positivity, her guidance, her intellectual ability to inspire, to give, to share. And words are just not enough to talk about her. Only the one book that I remember whenever I think of her is Mitch Albom's Tuesdays with Maury. I don't know how many of you have read that book, but those who have read it, you can relate it to. And it's a very special day for me. So let me welcome a very dear ma'am, a wonderful professor, Dr. Joyce Armstrong. Good morning, Dr. Armstrong. Welcome to this Tea Talk.
Good morning.
As you can see, I'm very, very nervous today. And as I was saying that I had to make 180 videos in order to have that little courage to invite you today, ma'am. And still, I do not know where to start, what to ask. For me, you are the mountain of person, ma'am. I have no words. I cannot describe you or introduce you at all. But for all our listener watching us, listening us from all over the world, please kindly tell a little bit about yourself.
Shilu, let me say good morning to you again, and what an honor it is for you to invite me to be a part of this form, your form that you created and designed and have already completed over 100, close to 200 um, interviews, and to be a part of that rich history of people that you've invited in. I am highly honored. Um, I want to thank you again for uh, breaking the ice for me, because um, it's been a while. You may recall I retired last year, and I'm learning how to enjoy uh, um, retirement. Sometimes just doing what I enjoy doing most of all, and that's working out in my in the yard and taking care of my husband. Uh, I share with you on a number of occasions how long I've been in the field of education, over 50 years. Uh, I was fortunate and truly blessed to serve in the role of an educator. And I'll start out by uh, just sharing with you again, and with your listeners, how I got started.
Yes,
Um, it was over as over 50 years ago. I got my first teaching job in East Texas, uh, and teaching uh, family and consumer sciences to middle schoolers.
ma'am.
And And I did that for 3 years. And then I married and I moved from a small town in East Texas to the big city, to North Texas, to the Dallas, Fort Worth area. And I was fortunate enough to be hired as a classroom teacher for Dallas Independent School District, one of the largest school districts in the country. So I got a lot of experience working with students. Um, uh, my phone. I got a lot of experience working with students, and in that journey of moving from a small school district to a large school district, it was I had to make the transition because it is different. While some students have some common uh, behavior, common needs, there's a difference in a rural suburban school district versus a large urban school district. And in my quest to really meet my students where they were, and meeting students where they were, I kept this concept throughout my journey as an educator, the whole 50 years, meeting students where they are, meeting families where they are, meeting communities where they are. And I became aware of that moving from a small town to a large area. Mm-hmm. I discovered that as I was sharing with you that there's there's some differences, but there's also some commonalities as well. Uh, my experience is my experience, and other educators may have a different experience, but in my experience, I found that families, that parents, regardless to whether they were in the small school district or in the large school district, cared deeply about their students, about their child, and they wanted to be a part of that educational process. So as I worked in this large urban school district, teaching at the high school level, still teaching family and consumer sciences, I noticed as a teacher, as my students came in to my classroom, that they brought with them their home. They brought their past, they brought their community, they brought their families. And because I was in this large school district, there were students from different social economic status as well. And they were combined within this classroom, my particular classroom. And in the process of working with students, over the years, and I stayed within this urban school district setting for approximately 15 years or so. But during this journey, during this 15-year journey, I would notice as students would come in, as I said, that they brought who they were with them. It was natural, it was organic. And I began to see that all of my students had unique leadership ability, but that leadership ability was not recognized by many other classrooms, many other teachers. And I began to look at what I was doing within my classroom and trying to stay with the district and the state's curriculum to make sure that I was doing what I needed to do as a teacher. But I started to look at my students to see how could I take who they were. Remember, I said that I noticed that they brought to my classroom their families, their friends, their communities, their siblings. This was all a part of their attitude, and who they were impacted how they learned, how open they were, how receptive they were. And then I began to develop an appreciation for their uniqueness over time. And because they were different, I had in my classroom at the time, I had the president of different of the maybe of the junior class, of the senior class, maybe the football team captain, or the major leaders on the football team, on the tennis team, on the drill team. But I also had within my classroom students who really didn't fit in. I had like students who were on student council in the honor society. But I also had other students who were not recognized for their leadership ability. And as a teacher at that time, I started looking at what could I do within the scope of my curriculum to provide every student within my classroom an opportunity to bring who they were, that leader. See, each one of my students were leaders. Some were leading in positive directions. They were influencing students in positive ways. But I had others who were not influencing students in a positive way. And as a teacher, as I said, I began to look at what could I do to provide an opportunity for each one of my students that I interfaced with in the course of a day to enhance who they were, who they brought with them, because who they brought with them made up who they were. it formed their families, formed their attitudes, their behaviors. And what could I do to move the leadership skills that they had? Because all of them had leadership skills. It was just some skills were more developed in some students than others. And I integrated within my classroom these leadership skills and activities where every student could develop into that positive leader. One of the things that I observed as a teacher at that time was that those students who were already leaders, oh, they could excel. They could be asked to join other organizations. So their leadership skills continued to blossom, to grow, because teachers recognized that and they helped to nurture that. I also found that some of my students, some of these leaders in the National Honor Society, on the student council, uh, on the football team, the basketball team, volleyball team, drill team, they had parents who nurtured their leadership skills, who helped to foster their development. So I didn't have to do a whole lot with them. But for those students who were on the, who lacked, oh, positive reinforcement in taking what they brought to the classroom, that leadership, whether they were leading their brothers and sisters, whether they were part of a gang, whether they were doing all of this negative stuff, whether they were being placed in in-house suspension. How could I take that leadership skill coupled with what my other students had to nurture all of them? And I developed a leadership program that expanded from my classroom to to my whole campus. Then from my campus, it went to other schools as well. And I was so excited about this idea of a teacher enhancing and fostering leadership within the classroom that would empower students to want to learn more, want to support their peers more, want to cultivate positive learning environment. It made my job easier because I wasn't dealing with a lot of discipline. My students turned the negativity to something positive. They were self-disciplined. So I thought this was wonderful, wonderful. Now I need to spread the word and I need to get this out to every school in the state, every school in the nation. So I said, well, and I set out to do that. But in trying to do that, I discovered that some people didn't, it was hard for me to get the word out, to get the message out, because I saw teachers as being a change agent. I saw teachers empowering students to become change agents. I saw teachers taking what we had, those students, because I didn't select my students. My students, when I got my class roster, those were the students I had. And I had to work with those students. I had to work with what I had. And as teachers and as educators, as administrators, how do we take those, all of our students? We don't want to leave anybody behind. We want to have high expectations for everyone. Everyone could be success. That was my goal. That should be our goal. How should we reach our students, starting at where they are? And if there are benchmarks, how do we provide instruction to help them to reach those benchmarks? And for some, it's easier to do because they already are self-directed. But for others, as a teacher, as a facilitator, as an administrator, we have to help to cultivate the environment so that our students want to change, want to be that positive change agent. So I did what I could to influence. And I said to myself, I said, if I had a PhD behind my name, maybe I could influence more people. Maybe people would listen to me more. So I set out to get this advanced degree because I wanted to go back to the classroom. I wanted to go back to the school districts, and I wanted to tell all teachers, all schools, there's a wealth of leadership within our classrooms, regardless of what grade we're talking about. If we're talking about those kinders, if we're talking about those preschoolers, if we're talking about those elementary age kids, if we're talking about the high school kids, there's this rich, rich environment there. So I set out and I went to TWU. And going to TWU, that was gonna be my goal. I was gonna go back once I got this PhD behind my name. I was going to go back and I was going to do all of this investment in leadership, helping schools to take what they had. Those are those students, those students who were excelling, those students who were not excelling. We were going to put them all together, and we were going to help all of them to become better leaders. Well, I didn't make it back to I didn't make it back to the classroom as I saw myself going back to the classroom. In my journey in earning my PhD, I had an opportunity to work in teacher education. And then I also had an opportunity to continue my work working with families and my major in family studies. And I became a teacher educator in working with students, preparing them for the classroom. And I did that for over 30 years, working with students. But during my journey in higher education, and as teachers, let me backtrack a little bit. A good educator is a reflective practitioner. And Shilu, you would know what I'm talking about, because I think as um, a practitioner working with families, as we work with families in family studies, that we have to step back and we have to reflect on what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing, what are our successes, what do we need to change, our delivery, our content information. How do we build on our knowledge? How do we continue growing as a professional through this process of being a lifelong learner? So being reflective as an educator. So in my teaching, uh, in higher ed, in my work with students, and working in higher ed is different from working in a secondary school setting, or in an elementary school setting, or in an early childhood setting. The expectations, some of the expectations, there's some similarities, but the overall process is different. In higher education, we're looking at your teaching, we're looking at your research, we're looking at your service, and you putting all of that together. We even do that. Educators do that in from early childhood to high school as well. They just call it something. They call it something different. So as a reflective practitioner, I learned that that same passion that I had when I first started out in developing leaders, I found that same passion when I was working with adults. Just as my students came within my classroom who wanted to be more, who wanted to do better, I found and I discovered that adult learners want to be better, want to do better. They want to be that change agent. And so, as a teacher with that past experience of knowing, you know, uh, first, if you're going to be successful with anybody, if you're going to be successful with families, what do you need to know? You need to know the people that you're working with. In my 30 years in higher ed, I had to know who my students were, who these adult learners were, what was important for them. Many of them were already leaders already. Many of them were entrepreneurs. Many were uh, 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 school administrators, policymakers, coming from large corporations in educational settings. So, and then it was some that was just finding who they were. They were just discovering who they were. And as the teacher, as the researcher, as that service person providing service, I had to know who my students were and what my purpose was, and to make sure that my purpose was in line with my university and my department. And collectively, what could I do to help at an individual level to help my students to meet their goal. They too wanted to be better at what they did. So I said all of that to say, on this journey of life, our experiences that we have, that we've been afforded over time, serve as stepping stones for us to move on to the next phase. And we can take our past, we can take those things, those accomplishments, as well as those failures, as well as those challenges. And I perceive failures as challenges, because why is it a challenge rather than a failure? It may be a disappointment, but we can get back up and we can move and we can keep going. And that's the difference between working with secondary students and adult learners. When adult learners find themselves faced with challenges, oh, they can tend to pick themselves up and they can look at the possibility. They can step into this phase of reflective thinking, being a reflective practitioner. Young children, we have to teach them how to be reflective. And much of my work over the 30 years in higher ed has been it was a privilege. It was a privilege and an honor to have had the opportunity to share in the vision, in the hope, in the aspiration of adults who want to be better, who want to make life better for others. And I put a pin in it for a question.
I'm just pausing, ma'am. As you mentioned, as you shared your journey, first, when you mentioned about the leadership, finding leaders, making leaders, creating them, recognizing them, I was thinking that was your, I mean, like after your PhD, but before coming to the PhD school, you have done all those things. And always your, what could I do to my students to make them better? I'm just speechless, ma'am. And I am one among those thousands of students you have touched. We're blessed to be in your classroom, so I exactly know what it means, what it is, and how it impacted. And just, I had questions before, now I do not have any question. I just want to listen. Hear me some of the, like, you worked with all kinds of students. As you mentioned, some were already leaders, some were yet to be. From them to students from different parts of the world as well. As you mentioned, who brought their families, who brought their stories, he brought their stories and history, everything. And working with all those diversity of interest, of passion, of career aspiration, and whatnot. So, among all those, how did you always manage, maintain this calm demeanor, the positivity, always composed and ready to give the best to whoever came to your classroom or seeking your advice, ma'am? What was the secret?
I think I had to learn, like all of us humans, we had to, I had to learn who I was and recognize who I was and appreciate who I am. I'm not like anybody else. I am a unique individual like you. There is no one like you. There will never be anyone just like you. You are unique with a purpose. And each one of us as humans are unique. We have some things in common, but there are some differences, some unique differences that we have. And I had to recognize that I had to be me. I can't be another professor. I can't be another researcher. I cannot be another professor providing service. I had to find who I was. And I had to rely on, just as my students that I learned early on in my program, that who I am is framed by my environment. And this whole idea, not only my environment, but also the nature. And you know, you've taken the child development classes, the human development classes, you know, this whole issue with nature, nurture, you know. So all of all of the things that, you know, I inherited from from my that as well, but also my environment as well played just as important, just as an important role in forming who I am as well. And part of that is also my faith, knowing, and I'm not talking about a religion or anything. It's just who, knowing the in my knower who I am, knowing my strengths, knowing my weaknesses, knowing the areas that I have challenges in, and to know that I may, there's some things that in this journey, in this 50-year journey that I had as an educator. And if I go back and look at my life over the decades, there were times when I failed in some things, in some areas, but because I failed or fell short, did not mean life was over, the dream was over. No, I learned how to pick things back up, how to move forward. In this forward thinking was what I tried to share with the adult learners, that you may run into some obstacles along the journey. You have this goal. I'm going to get this undergraduate degree. I'm going to get this master's degree. I'm going to get this PhD degree. And sometimes things don't go the way that you think that they should, but you keep at it. You keep at it. If you know in your knower, this is why being a reflective practitioner is so important. This is why it is important to be a reflective person every day that we get up. You know, these things that we teach our children, you remember teaching your boys when they got up in the morning before you sent them off to school. You and your husband would, tell boys, what are you going to do for the day? Tell me your plan. And they had a plan laid out for them. And then when they got home, you had them to reflect back on the day. How was your day? What did you do? Some days they had disappointing things. Some days they had challenges. Some days they had, this is a fantastic day. But you instilled in them that reflectivity, being reflective in their thinking, to step back, to look at their situation and to focus on that overall goal. And my working with adults, in my working with students like you, I had a purpose, and my purpose was to keep you focused on your goal and to remind you that every day is not going to be a sunny day. We're going to have rain. And some days, the rain may turn into hell. Some days there may be tornadoes here in Texas. And some days the sun is going to be so hot that it's miserable outside. But we have to keep at it and keep the goal in mind. But in formulating the goal, I think we have to be grounded. Sometimes we get our goals mixed up. They get convoluted in a whole bunch of stuff. We hadn't really thought through clearly what it is that I really want. And just in this journey called life itself, in setting goals, that if our goals are not grounded in the things that we truly believe in. You remember I told you that I had to find out who I was. That's who my values. Right. I had to find out what was important to me. Because for me, my goal or goals I can never complete my goal if my values are not intertwined in my goals. I can start. And sometimes we pick up someone else's values, someone else's goals. And we can do that. We can impact others through our living, through our environment, through our teaching, through our interaction, where they can pick up our values. And that's a good thing. And we want others to pick up something from us. And one of the things as a teacher, and if we go back to my early teaching, I didn't want my students who had leadership skills and they were directing that leadership in a negative way. So as as practitioners in family studies, in family sciences, we want to make sure that our values are such that we're leading families, we're leading individuals, we're leading communities in ways that improve their quality of life, that brings them, that promotes an outcome that's going to help them to reach their goal so that they can impact others. And that's what I found through working with those little ones. And I worked not only in schools, but I worked in communities as well. And regardless to who I work with or the population I work with, I've been fortunate in that I very seldom run into people to say, I just want to just destroy everything. I just want to just tear up everything. What the people that I interface with, that I have contact, they want to be better. They want to do better. They want to be that ripple, but they want to be a positive ripple. They want to have a positive effect on families, on kids. They want quality and they work for quality. But at the same time, when we're down, when we have those bad days and those days turn into weeks, turn into months, turn into years, when disappointment, when stressors come and we cannot handle the stressors, we don't always think clearly. And that's why healthy reflection becomes so important. That's why healthy parenting becomes so important for families, moms and dads and aunts and uncles and extended family members and teachers and social workers and the community leaders to help our kiddos learn how to make decisions, how to form goals, how to clarify values, how to develop a plan, how to implement a plan with the thought of it may not come out or turn out the way that you think it should. Just step back and reflect, change course if you need to change course, or if you need a time out, take a time out, but think clearly if you can. Think with clarity. And in our thinking, in our action, in our decision making, to always be focused and always be reminded that choices, decisions that we make not only affect us individually, but affect others as well. And in family studies and the research, and when we work with human subjects, and you're very familiar with this, one of the areas is to do no harm. We don't want to do harm to anybody. That's in practice as well. We don't want our work with families, work with individuals, work with communities, work with kids to harm them. Yeah. There's this saying in teaching. One time, during my career as a teacher, I've been very, very fortunate in that I've been recognized for my teaching. And one of the recognitions I received one year, I received this statue, and on it, engraved on the statue, it had that a teacher influences the life of an individual for generations. And I see that being applicable in the field of social sciences, in the field of family sciences, of family studies. How we work with people impact them, not only in the now, but they keep thinking about it, and they pass it on. And they pass it on from one generation to the next, their experience. Let me explain it to you through my teacher lens. You may have heard people say to their children, a parent, I didn't have a good experience in school, and they tell that to their children, and their children, they have difficulty meeting teachers, interfacing with schools, because they did not have a positive experience. Some might say, I didn't have a positive experience in college, my undergraduate. They passed that on, and it continued to be passed on to the next. And that may be true. You didn't have a positive experience. But as that practitioner, I don't want any of the students, from those that I had when I worked at the community level, when I worked in schools, or when I worked at the university, to look at their experience with me and for them to say, I had, because of my interaction with you, it changed my perception of what I could do, what I could be. And I know as teachers and individuals and as individuals that we can't take that on. And I'm not asking anybody to take that on, because this is an individual thing. This comes from within. Some of the things that we experience in our life from day to day, we have to let go. We have to be mature enough to say, I have to let some of that stuff go, some of the toxic stuff go, because it is not good for me. Yeah. And I cannot carry that with me. But what I'm saying, I want when people look at my career, my interaction with them, that it was one of something that they picked up that they could take with them. They don't necessarily have to remember me. I'm not asking for anybody to remember me, but as they reflect on, as you reflect on your time, that your life was good because of your journey. That's what I am saying. And as practitioners working with individuals and families, we can assist them in letting go of what need to be let go of, and to hold on to the things that we need to hold on to. Those things that's going to bring that quality of life to us. It's that desire of hope. And every individual deserves hope.
Yes.
Hope. Hope.
Yes.
Hope to be successful. Hope to have a positive influence. Hope to be an impact, a positive impact on someone else. See, because we are going to affect someone regardless.
Right.
We just have to decide what kind of influence we want to leave. Do we want to be a positive influencer, or do we want to be a negative manipulator?
Choice is there. Yes. Yes. Oh my God.
I hope I've answered your questions. I probably have given you too much information. You know, I generally do information overload. So I apologize for that.
So much valuable, ma'am. So much valuable that I had to pause. I have to take in, and as you mentioned, that reflect. Reflect. Yes, ma'am. And with this, I would like to ask one thing. You have again impacted thousands of lives. And talking from my own experience, I do have Dr. Armstrong. But how was Dr. Armstrong as a little girl? Did she had any Dr. Armstrong like who I have now? That is a teacher who has impacted, inspired so much. I wanted to meet
Oh,
that little
yeah.
girl.
Yes, yes. You know, I was thinking this morning, and sometimes, you know, when we reflect, we think sometimes we don't know what direction our reflection is going to go in.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking about my life, and I've been thinking quite a bit since I really have time to reflect now, since uh, I'm retired. But I was reflecting on my journey, and I can remember when I was just a teenager, um, early teens. My teaching started with Miss Miller. Miss Miller was a kindergarten teacher at the time. And in the after school, I would go to Miss Miller's kindergarten, and I would help. And I really didn't realize at that time, it was only during my adult life that I realized how much that experience working with those young kids, those toddlers, those 3, 4, and 5-year-olds at that time, how much that influenced me. And then I had a teacher during my high school. Oh, I'll never forget her. Her name, um, May Patterson. And Miss Patterson passed away a few years ago, but she was my family and consumer science teacher. And I am the second person in my family to graduate from college. My brother graduated first. He went to a technical college, and then I'm the first one to graduate from a four-year university. But I can remember Miss Patterson would take us to, at the time, East Texas State University. And she would take a group of us. When she would go down, she was working on her master's at the time. And I can remember walking on that college campus. And if you're a first generation student, you've never been to no one could really explain to you what college is. Something abstract to you, but having the experience of coming to a college, walking on a campus, looking at the possibilities, that changed my life. And I didn't know it at the time, but it did. And when I started at TWU, one of the things that we had an opportunity to do my first couple of years at TWU is that we had an opportunity to work with recruiters on campus in greeting high school students as they come to campus, and a number of them were first generation students. So in just interfacing with them, I could relate to their experience in walking on a campus, going to the student center, going to the library, going to a classroom. Those experiences become meaningful to you as an individual. So when it was time for me to make a choice as to what I wanted to do with it clicked. I know a place where I could go because my teacher had taken me to this university and I could relate. So experience is so important. And the same thing is true once an individual finishes high school. If they're the first one in their family finish high school, if they're the first one in their family who finish with a 4-year degree or a technical degree or whatever, that they could relate those experiences to family members, to their siblings, someone who finished an advanced graduate degree, someone who finished a PhD. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Think about what that means to your family. If you're the first one, or the second, or the third, or you have a whole history. Oh my goodness. Oh, what an advantage you have.
Yeah.
Oh, because you have an inkling
Yeah.
of what it's like. And even if your family member, oh, is have an opportunity, oh, to be a part of a faculty, a university faculty, part of 2-year college faculty, and to know, hey, you could do that too. You could do that. If we can see it, Shilu, that's the main thing. That was the thing that I wanted you all to see, that every day that I talk to you all, if you can see it, oh, you can do it. If you see it, if you see how it works, oh, you can do it. You can do it. You can keep at it. You can keep pressing on. You can hold on to that goal in spite of the fact, oh, that you run into some obstacles, that you had to lay out a semester, that you didn't have, maybe the grades that you thought you were going to make once. You can change. You can keep at it. You can change your plan. You can keep at it and not give up, because you see the possibility. You see it in your mind. If you see it, you can do it.
Ma'am, and your positivity, the way you have showed the students that hope, the possibility, that was absolutely contagious. One started to believing in itself, and then they have become that. So you are that kind of little match, right? Ignited the flames out of the students. And yes, that is absolutely incredible. And that's why I wanted to know your teachers as well, who saved you, who inspired you as who you are, giving to and like inspiring so many, ma'am. And that's again, I'm very blessed. But I'm speaking on behalf of so many. You may have so many silos there. You may have so many students out there. You may not even remember so many names, but they do remember the impact they have in life from who you are, the teacher like you, ma'am. And I have no words again to express how humble I am, how honored I am. Ma'am, tell me some of the fun experience you have, some of like with in your career or in TW, something.
Oh, well, at TW, I think and this is the first time that I thought about this. My office was on the first floor, and for a long time, Dr. Petty. I don't know if you remember Dr. Petty or not. Her office was next to my office,
Yes.
and one of the things that we would do is that we would knock on the wall.
Oh. Yeah.
And then we would call out to other people within the suite, and we would find ourselves calling out to different people. And when Dr. Petty moved on, and then later retired Dr. Joel Murrow moved in the office, and next door to me, really, Dr. Moore moved in after Dr. Petty, and then Dr. Uh, Murrow moved in, and with Dr. Murrow, we would knock or call out. That was fun, colleagues, and things could get kind of tensed, and just when you have that time where you could just laugh, and it was a lot of laughter. And that's one of the things too about finding who you are and finding your place. Once you find, who you are and what you were meant to be, and the impact that you're making, oh, it is just pure joy. And you could almost work without pay, but you don't want to tell anybody, hey, I want my pay. But oh, you get so much joy out of the work. And this is regardless to what the work is. If you could just, if your work is just getting up, like working if you could just get that joy out of it, that peace out of it, it's worth it. It's worth it all. It's just worth it all.
Yes, ma'am. And mentioning about your office, I exactly remember the first time I worked there, leaving everything, job, as you said, pay, uh, like home in Canada, everything, like just walking to your office for the first time and then many times. And that is how you groomed me, you helped me, you inspired me, you ignited me. And many of the students have worked to your office. And now, I mean, as you retired, and now from a student, I became a like teacher as well. So working there, it is not the same, but at the same time, something remains. It doesn't change. So, what are few of the changes that you have seen, like when you first joined TW, and like in all these years, like,
Well, I think when I first started, it took a long time too. We had a very, very stable faculty, and then after change, and then we got new faculty, and change, but for a long time things were things were you know pretty much stable, pretty much settled. But like life itself, one season a season start, and then a season end, and a new one began. And so this is a new season for our department or for our college. This, for the faculty there, and with you being there too, this will be your good old days. And everybody have good old days, good times. Even though, sometimes when we're going through what we're going through, they may not always seem good. I was thinking about, the what are the good old days. And once you start aging, you start, naturally reflecting. And I was just thinking about the current status of where we are as a society right now. And for some, some might say these are maybe a little turbulent times right now, but even though this may be a little turbulent right now, for this generation, this, once they get past this season, this too will be their good old days.
Yeah.
We all have the good old days. We could let go of all of the other stuff. And now, since we're on another stepping stone, you remember I told you the life's journey, you have these stepping stones. And once you move on to the next stepping stone and you reflect the good old, the good old days.
Mhm. I cannot get enough listening to you, ma'am, and being in your class. And today I feel like I'm there again. And every single day after your class, I used to write long, long journals. I have been writing journals all my years. And then, yeah, it was such a, yes, good old days, I would say again. Lord, ma'am. So it's a fun question. What is one thing, I don't know, like you remember about me, ma'am? Because reflection, talking about reflection, don't.
I remember so much about you, but I'll tell you what I see in you. You know, I was talking about, change, and we all change. But this is one thing that I have not seen. You have been this almost the same. You've been so balanced. You've been so balanced. And you probably have always been this way. But I can remember the first time that you called and you wanted some information about TW in the questions that you answer, that you ask, and and how you wrote down things. It's I was answering your questions. You were writing the answers. You were writing the answers down, and then once you moved to Texas and moved to North Texas, and you came to visit, I saw some of the same things. This desire to want to give back, wanting to be better, this inquisitive uh, nature that you have of learning more uh, was such a part of you, and there's this calmness about you. I've never heard you or seen you upset at all. When there's a whole bunch of stuff going going around or issues, you're always calm, even during the time when you were gathering information and you had to get information moving from Canada to the US, all of the things that you had to do, all of the paperwork, you were always so calm in everything that you do. And I remember, and I don't know if you remember this, but we had an opportunity to team teach. You remember that practicum class?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You were, and that same demeanor you showed towards you. always come, regardless of what question that you handle it, and you're so professional. You're so special, and I feel, and I told you this, and I will tell you this all the time. I feel so honored to have had the opportunity to work with you and with so many other students, but to work with you. And then you're so thoughtful. That's another thing. You are one of the most thoughtful persons. I that I've had an opportunity to interact with. These are such special qualities, and it's just so special. I think you're special.
And yes, I am. Again, I say because I'm your student, that's why I'm special. And I repeat that with so much pride, with my head held so high, and I always will do this. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Uh, I don't know, but in the beginning, I have mentioned a book, and I don't know if you have read that. You probably have. Uh, I love that book so much. It's Tuesdays with Maury, and I've watched the movie as well. And whenever I read the book, I always think that, oh, my Professor Maury is my Dr. Armstrong. I always say that to my families and friends and whatnot. But, ma'am, we are almost at the end of the tea talk, and I cannot get enough at all. But today, is there anything, ma'am, you'd like to share or give message to all our listeners, to your students, to many listeners all over the world, that something that I forgot to ask and you wanted to mention or anything?
No, no. I guess if I wanted to say one thing is to this is I'll leave with this. This is what I would share with you all. I don't know if I shared it with you. Because you are special, because you are unique. Don't get the big head. Stay humble. Don't think too highly of yourself. And don't think too lowly of yourself. You have something on the inside of you. We all do. When we know that we're thinking too highly, bring yourself down. And then when you think too lowly, you have something on the inside of you too that tells you that you're thinking too lowly of yourself, that that's not your true self. So bring yourself back up to where you belong, so that when you meet individuals, families, and communities, you can meet them where they are.
Very, I engraved it right here, ma'am. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure talking to you today, and I wish you well and the best of the best. I wish you the best of everything. Just the best to you.
Ma'am. And thank you so much for your time, ma'am. I wish you enjoy your time, the retirement time. As you said, that it's time to reflect as well, something that you have taught me, taught us. And words are failing me, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay. And we'll talk soon.
Yes, please.
Bye bye.